Okay, in this video we're going to try to install PiCore Player on a Raspberry Pi. This one's much more involved than the other two. A lot of components you have to install, but it starts the same as the other ones. You go to the website PiCore Player and then click Downloads. From there you should pick the standard version. It's better tested out than the 64-bit version. When it's down, extract it and then start your Flash utility. When you go to choose the OS, at least in mine, you use custom and then go to where the file is. Unfortunately, drop downs aren't working in my screen capture. And just load the image file that was extracted. And then choose your storage. In this case, I made a mistake and used a 64-gig card, which really isn't needed for this tiny little player. Now, here's a very small file system to start with. He's creating two 64-meg file systems. They're tiny compared to the other players I've tried to load. And it tries to reboot a lot during the install. You have to install a lot of components. So I'll be skipping over those when we get to them. Anyway, at this point you can close your player, remount the flash drive, and you want to edit a file called wps-suplicant.conf sample. In this file, go down and change the country code to whatever country you're in. And then enter your personal SSID. It helps to spell it right, which I just made a mistake in. Now, if you're using an Ethernet cable, you don't have to do this. You can actually configure wireless over the wired Ethernet. And of course, your secret Wi-Fi password, which I'm not going to show. And if you used Windows Notepad, it adds a .text extender to it. You want to have it called just wps-supplicant.conf. Anyway, once that's done, unmount the card and put it in your Raspberry Pi and boot up. Now, I sped this up a bit. It took a few minutes to boot. But that's the main interface you're at, and from here you install pretty well all the other components and do all the other settings. The first thing to do is to go and expand the second file system, which is down here under the main page, and I'm going to let it go to 2 gig, which is the maximum size that lets you go on this setting. And I've still got 60 gig to allocate to the third partition when I get to that point. Now I plan to use that third partition to hold some DSF files for testing the high speed to my DAC. Anyway, here under Wi-Fi you can see that it says the user is maintaining the configuration file, not the PiCore Player. And as usual, I'm going to turn off the HDMI power so not wasting any resources on the tiny Pi. Now, as I said, PiCore Player doesn't load a lot into its base OS, so right now it's loading modules that allow it to turn off the HDMI interface. And as usual, it wants to reboot. This happens an awful lot with this version of a player, at least during its install. Now when you come over to LMS, you'll find it's not running and the install button for LMS is not there. You get it by clicking the beta button at the bottom of the screen, but I'm going to reboot first. It's just safer to do rather than stack a pile of changes on and hope that they all work at once. So another magic second gone as the little machine reboots itself. At this point I'm installing extra file systems, which you do have to do if you want to load the ext4 file systems and NTFS. Now the errors that are showing up are usually okay. He retries a couple of times to load the files, and now I'm loading exFAT, which I'm not actually sure I'm going to use or not, but that's an option. Okay, and before installing LMS, I'm going to run over and I'm going to run over and we'll create the third partition, which is done again under resize. This shows up once you've enabled beta features, and they give you a lot of warnings. It's a bad idea to do this because SD cards have a tendency to fail. Bad place to keep your data. Anyway, he's off formatting 64 gig. That actually took a couple of hours on this Pi. I just quickly sped over it. And now we're installing LMS, which again is loading a ton of modules into the OS. And once LMS is installed, you can't just power off the Pi anymore, which is one of the PiCore Player's features. LMS is a database system, and it has to be shut down properly. You're going to corrupt the database. Again, it feels okay. I only had trouble when I installed the Samba server. That's another option, and mine kept failing and not loading all the modules. I had to keep uninstalling and reinstalling it over and over until it finally loaded all the correct modules. Actually, loading PiCore Player, it helps to know Unix systems, but it's not really critical, because you could probably go over to an SSH terminal window and use apt-get to get all the modules manually. Anyway, we'll give LMS a try to see if it starts. Hopefully it does. Bingo, it's up. Oh, I guess I should have moved the cache files over to the larger partition, which I can do that now. Not on the network bounce, up a bit. There we are. First you have to enable the partition as a mount. It's going to mount it as the SD card as a USB drive, and it's called data. They didn't have an option in the names. I'm hoping it doesn't. Good, it didn't require a reboot this time, and it just mounted it. And you're also going to want to go and change the write permissions when we get there. Yeah, it's changing the write permissions to user TC, who is the database owner, so it gives him access to write all over that drive. Or a partition, rather. And I crashed LMS. Okay, now we're going to change it to the micro SD card. I just told it to go and change the pointers over. If I had actually had data on that 2 gig partition, you should have used the move option and move the files over to the new partition. But I didn't really have to do that since I hadn't actually done anything with it. And let's... Okay, and let's mount our SMB drive or NAS drive. Unfortunately, I don't use network names, so you do have to know your IP address of your NAS drive and the share name you want to appear on this machine as. Now this one gives you the option of using CIFS or NFS. My NAS only understands CIFS, or SMB rather. Use your name, your super secret password, and since my NAS only does SMB2, I'm going to have to specify that parameter, since almost all modern systems use SMB3 or 4 now. So we just add it to the end of the options, comma, and version equals 2.0 for mine. And he wants to reboot again. Wonderful. We don't have to reboot when doing an NFS mount. Well, it's on most systems you don't. But he rebooted and he's up and LMS is started, so now we can try to do a bit of configuration. You click LMS web pages, and you're going to have to log into a Squeezebox account. If you don't have one, you have to create it. I happen to have one, so I'm just logging into it. Here you can connect your Squeezebox player to services like Tidal, Quobuzz, TuneIn, something I'm not sure I'm going to use, but you still have to make the connection. And this is the basic player. This is the default interface, which I'm going to change to material skin in a moment. But he's out there right now. He's scanning the drive and was starting to populate the field, so I'm just getting a quick status on what it's up to. It looks like it's just about finished scanning the NAS drive I connected. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to settings and I'm going to load that material skin. It's a plugin. You just search for material and then click the checkbox next to it. It's normally not clicked on. And once that's done, you come over to interface. Okay, the Pi is really slow still. It's still doing, I guess, indexing. And change default to material. And when you do apply, he's going to tell you have to close all the windows through LMS and reopen them again to pick up the new change. This isn't a reboot, you just have to close the windows and reopen them. So close, and reopen. And now we're on the new skin. It connects to the LMS connected to the PiCore Player, and you can see the interface has changed quite a bit. And it's a bit more normal for people when they're going into their media servers. Like you can see album art, and all that stuff is showing up. Well, anyway, I'll be going back to the default skin a little bit later. Some of the settings I need to do are easier to find under the default skin. Right now I'm going to show you how to change over from my headphones to a USB DAC. So you come here to the first setting under squeeze light and change it from headphones to audio to USB audio. And when you click save, it'll go away for a while. And want to reboot. He's totally changing over the settings for your audio output at this point. It's also cleared any settings you may have had. So when you come back in, you have a whole new set of settings, and you go under output settings, just right under PiCore Player, click more, and from the list below, try to pick your hardware card. In my case, it's hardware card equals E50, and hopefully that works. Picking the hardware interface is the best way to go. If that doesn't work, you gotta work your way down the list to find one that does. Alright, right now it just restarted the squeeze light player component. At this point, the DAC was working. But you can't leave well enough alone, so I'm going to show you now how to go over lots of settings. We're going to show you how now to go over and install a DSD player or DSD support. You go under extras, you pick extensions. It's going to check to see which repositories are available. They don't all have to be. Some of them aren't all. And under available, you're going to look for PCP DSD play. The drop down's not working, but the name was easy enough to find. And he's downloading it and installing it. Unfortunately, you don't have to do a restart, but now you can go under Squeeze Light Player. Now you can go to Squeeze Light Player and you have to change a few parameters to enable DSD playback. First thing I did was add codecs to restrict just to PCM FLAC and MP3 DSD. I changed the priority to 45, and I changed the DSD playback to be we call it U32BE. That's the biggest codec. If that one doesn't work for you, you got to work your way down the list to slower versions of the codec. And then you have to configure PCP or DSD playback in LMS. So you do that by coming here to plugins. And you're searching for DSD player. Again, you just do a search for DSD player and click the checkbox on, which normally it's not on. This causes it to load that plugin. And after you click apply, you're going to have to close out the windows and go back into LMS. Oh, it picks up the new change. And here you're just verifying things worked. So you're going to want to go under Advanced and under Formatting, click File Types. Now you should see DFF and DSF showing up as two new file types supported by the LMS player. Or LMS server, rather. Then you want to go over to Player. This is the last check you need to make. And over here you'll find a new option. DSD player is showing up. And in my case, there's no options here. It just says the player supports DSD and DSD over PCM natively. Nothing else is needed. I've seen some other players show how it socks the parameters where it has to do conversions of file types. Like it'll transcode them to FLAC or something if the DAC can't handle it. And this way we're going to put the managed material skin back, since it's much nicer to use. And once again, apply, close everything to get it to pick up the new skin and all the settings. And now when you go into the LMS web pages, I'm actually going to change the IP address to the real name of my PiCore player at the port 9000, so I can save that as a bookmark. LMS is waiting, and he's connected to the PiCore Player service. And now I should be able to go into my music folders. Oh yeah, this music folders and disks and folders don't show up normally. I'll show you how to add that at the end. Scurrying down to where I've saved some DSF files, and there they are. And now I'm going to try to play one of them. Of course, no audio on YouTube, but it seems to be playing, and here's my little DAC showing it's playing a 2.82 megahertz DSD file. That's a sampling rate of 2.82 megahertz, not the few kilohertz PCM uses. Now here's how you set the extra options. You go under the three dots under the skin, go under My Music, and then add the disk folders, the music folders. You can turn on and off other features as you want them. And then save as default so it retains them. And once you've done that, it will remember them for whenever you boot, and there they are. Well, that's about it for now, so bye bye, see you around on the tube.